Well, they are bruised but not broken. Occupy Wall Street protesters kicked out various occupations around the country, including the one where it all started in New York City. Well, they say they're not backing down. Meanwhile, they've been taking shifts at Zuccotti Park, where they have been allowed to return, but not to camp. Backpacks, tents, and sleeping bags are banned after protesters were cleared out late Monday night, early Tuesday morning on the orders of New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg. But we want to take a closer look at what's gone on over the past few days. It wasn't just New York, of course. We've been telling you this has happened in cities across the country. Very early this morning, about 1:20, it was San Francisco. Police raided 3 encampments and dismantled tents. About 60 people had been camping out there. It was a similar situation over the weekend. This video you see here is in Portland, Oregon, where police in riot gear evicted campers at Occupy locations. And Portland police arrested more than 50 people. Portland protesters say police used excessive physical violence. Local authorities say the Occupy protest had turned into a party there. But check out these photos. These are from overnight in Seattle, Washington. This is an older woman, 84 years old, 4'10". You see she's been pepper sprayed in the face. We have other pictures. You can see these police officers are just using this pepper spray indiscriminately as they use this as a weapon, sort of, to try to win their war, which is to get people to clear out of the way. This photo is of a 19-year-old pregnant woman. This woman also pepper sprayed in the face and taken to the hospital. Police there, they say that they were only using pepper spray on people who are being assaultive towards officers or who were ignoring orders. We have some more pictures as well. You just see the mass presence of police there in Seattle that it took to break up this encampment. And finally, here's another photo of that woman, the pregnant woman, as she's been taken to the hospital. So it seemed a little strange. You know, all of these evictions of Occupy movements around the country happened during the same week, many even on the same day. Most of them very early in the morning, and included a very large police presence, and this time, no access even to the media. But it couldn't be a coordinated effort. Police departments are autonomous, right? Well, maybe not. Here's Oakland Mayor Jean Quan in an interview with the BBC.
I was recently on a conference call of 18 cities across the country who had the same situation where what had started as a political movement and a political encampment ended up being an encampment that was no longer in control of the people who started them. And what I think you're starting to see is that the Occupy movement is looking for more stability.
All right, so we have Mayor Jean Quan from Oakland saying she's on a conference call with city officials from more than 18 cities. We're also now hearing reports, particularly in a news article written in the Minneapolis Top News Examiner, that it wasn't just mayors, that it was the Department of Homeland Security also in on this. This came as shocking news to many people. Not shocked, though, radio host Alex Jones. I spoke to him earlier today from Austin, Texas, and I asked him if this is evidence that Big Brother is alive and well here in the U.S. Here's his take.
Well, it is. TSA under Homeland Security has now set up checkpoints on highways across the United States and are searching people like it's an airport, driving down the highway, something right out of a third world dictatorship, while our borders are pretty much wide open in many areas. And federally, they're putting in cameras, microphones everywhere. They have threat fusion centers that are run by the feds, sometimes at military bases that the local police departments and fire departments are all moving into. So this is a total federalization that violates our 10th Amendment. Why even have states? Why even have counties and cities if the federal government is running everything? And I noticed a few weeks ago you would see concerted on the same day in 10, 15, 20 cities, raids on Occupy Wall Street. I mean, that's obvious it's being concerted when it happens on the same day, same night, same morning, in the same way, same tactics. And now it's just admitted. And they're brutalizing people now. They're cracking them over the head with billy clubs. They're pepper spraying babies. And it's a message of, we don't like what you're doing. I mean, what happened early on was the Democratic Party tried to co-opt this, like the Republicans tried to co-opt the Tea Party, and that didn't really succeed. And so they've gone from a month ago, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Federal Reserve, the Obama administration, Ben Bernanke, all endorsing Occupy Wall Street when they thought that they could co-opt it, to now saying, get them out of here. And also I've discovered in Austin and in Detroit, as well as New York, we've confirmed that when they let homeless people out who've been arrested for being drunk in public or sleeping on the sidewalk, or they release people from prison or homeless shelters or mental institutions, they tell them, go to Austin Occupy, go to New York Occupy. We won't arrest you there. So for the last month, they've been sending all the homeless people and mentally ill people and prisoners there so they can then demonize it and say, look, people are going to the bathroom on the ground, even when there's a porta potty. Fights are breaking out. There's robberies.
We've heard as well, Alex, we've heard as well that at some of these movements, police that used to have a pretty large presence in some of these areas, in some of these parts of the city, decided to just abandon those parts. So when violence happens, they're not there. I will say, I've spent a lot of time here at Occupy K Street here in Washington. Some of the protesters even tell me they've been warned by other protesters that people are being sent in by either Homeland Security or other agencies trying to get information. They're concerned. But what would these, so-called spies have to gain by infiltrating this movement?
Well, they're now trying to blame the shooting at the White House on Occupy Wall Street. What do they have to gain? They get intelligence so they can then demonize the group. They can set the groups up. Look, the system knows with its actuaries and different calculations that there is an uprising against the corruption on Wall Street and against the Federal Reserve coming.
But this is not an uprising that's quiet. I mean, they have all of their actions, all of their intentions posted on their websites. I mean, they don't need, this isn't a secret movement. This isn't
it's a peaceful thing.
CIA operation. This is a movement that is very open and transparent. So why would Homeland Security need to be sending people into these parks and into these squares to find out information?
Well, exactly. That's why the system knows that there's more political action, more demonstrating coming from across the political spectrum. So at first they kind of give Occupy Wall Street good press, try to make it a Democratic type thing so they can at least make it partisan. Now they're in the business of demonizing it, infiltrating it to try to manufacture or dig up dirt on them as a way to generally demonize all forms of protest in this country ahead of the full depressionary collapse, bank runs, and everything else that's in the works. I see the police and hear talk radio demonizing Occupy Wall Street across the board, calling them a bunch of dirty criminals. The New York Post called them rabble, which means basically criminal scum. This idea that protesting and demonstrating is criminal or is scummy or filthy is really un-American and anti-democratic across the world. And so that's my big concern. And now we have this MF Global taking $900 million of people's own bank accounts out of their system and giving it to mega banks and raiding people's private accounts like Gerald Celente that broke here yesterday and is now one of the biggest stories in the country. Why don't we see a perp walk for those criminals who are openly doing this? Well, it turns out that the head of the CFTC, according to Reuters, is invested deeply with Corzine, who runs this MF Global. So you've got these massive lootings and bank accounts being grabbed and derivatives and all these scams going on. None of them get in trouble. They get multi-trillion-dollar citizen-paid bailouts. And then when citizens are mad about the country going into a depression, the media demonizes the people and six military-style police on them. I mean, what I saw in New York, where they were cracking women in the head for no reason with billy clubs and shooting veterans in the face with rubber bullets and almost killing them in Oakland, and then to hear the media defending it. I mean, my God, our country's gone from 20 years ago decrying Tiananmen Square to now basically praising similar type things. It's really, really scary.
Certainly this issue you're talking about, Alex, about John Corzine and MF Global, this is one of so many stories that people on Occupy Wall Street are certainly frustrated about. But my concern, and I think a lot of people's concern, and I'm wondering if you have any ideas for this, is the messaging war has changed. As you said, so many people at first said, these are peaceful protesters, fighting this corrupt system that's really got out of control. And it's not just the media. It's, a lot of people getting involved, federal agencies that have really started to amp up, to beef up the message that these are nothing more than drunks. They make headlines when, this murder happened at one of the protests. And what needs to change here to turn this message war around?
Well, It's a psyop. Again, we've confirmed they're telling the homeless people, you're arrested if you sleep anywhere else, under a bridge, anywhere, you go to Occupy. This is being done nationwide for at least a month. It's a self-fulfilling process. It's a setup. What needs to change is we need to say the First Amendment's the First Amendment. And whether you agree with what the Occupy people are saying or disagree, you should support their First Amendment and right of free speech. And also, we need to get the word out that Occupy Wall Street is a diverse spectrum of ideas, from libertarians to socialists to liberals to conservatives. And it's an attempt by the mainstream media to brand all protest as basically a bunch of communists. You know, I've been critical of some of the messages in Occupy, and I was critical of it when Obama tried to co-opt it. And I said, if Obama is unable to co-opt it, they're going to raid him. And that's now happened. So the good news is they failed to co-opt this movement. And so that's why you're going to see the system turned loose on them. And so we need to stand with Occupy Wall Street now that they're being attacked. Now is the time. And we need to have more people like yourself, which you're doing. But other so-called media here in the U.S. needs to step up to the plate and point out that they are telling the people being released from prisons, jails, mental institutions, homeless, you name it, go to Occupy. That's where the free food is. And it's all a big joke, as you said. They pull the cops back. And basically advertise this is a place to engage in crime, to demonize it.
And I will mention at least that some of the organizers, more well-established people involved in Occupy Wall Street say, you know, they don't mind helping these homeless people, but that a lot of these homeless people, these mentally ill people, are simply victims of the system. Out of time, Alex. Want to thank you. Radio host Alex Jones in Austin, Texas.